Hey there, this is your pal Pallie, and welcome back to Overrated. This is episode number 43, and the big question has been, where's Pallie? And that is, of course, the title of today's show, Where the Heck I Have Been. And welcome, of course, to the first ever live broadcast of Overrated. Hopefully this works out. I'm going to try to do this around 11 p.m. Central every Saturday, get in the habit of a live show. If this time doesn't work out, fine, change it, whatever. This is a trial run. Let's see how it goes. So if you want to check this out, if you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, come hang out at twitch.tv/getterraid. I'll be doing a live show and hopefully getting some people in chat and talking, and let's have a good old time. Let's have some fun. Of course, it won't always be just me talking as I do in Overrateds with my hands waving everywhere. Maybe we'll do some live rating or something and go into LFR or something and talk some stuff. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how this takes us. But the topics today were, first, of course, where the heck have I been? Yeah, we'll discuss. We'll discuss. Then talking about what I'm going to be doing with my raid videos and all sorts of stuff there. Then the actual topic of today is more about burnout. It's sort of a somewhat theme, I suppose. Spoilers. But mainly talking about raider burnout and what's been going on for this first tier. So first off, where have I been? Where have I been? Well, so when I did the last episode of Overrated, that would be 42, I was like approaching like 1 year. I'm like, yay, year, let's do this yearly episode, big thing. And then Christmas hit. Then I got sick right around Christmas and had a cold. It's just, I mean, you can probably hear some of it still back there, the back of my throat, and yeah, still getting over that, and just really didn't do anything. Nothing. Like nothing at all the whole Christmas break. And I had like a really sizable Christmas break. Like I was off work from, I don't know, like the week before Christmas, a whole week of Christmas, New Year's, all the way around to like January 5th or 6th or something. So it's a lot of freaking time. I could have gotten a lot of stuff done. I didn't. I was sick. And Christmas. It's just very bad. And I feel bad about that, and you'll see some of the results of that. But that's been where I've been. I have still been raiding, and I have a cat sitting right up here. He's about to jump down, maybe go to the back. Gets our first cat action of the day. But I have been raiding. Our raid group certainly took a bit of a step back a little bit, or just let's farm what we can type dealio for the Christmas time. But we did get some farm, and we have killed Kargath Mythic twice now. No, 3 times. I don't know. Anyway, we did get farm what we need to. So, and then I'll go up to our third topic about burnout. But myself, just been really being able to log on, do some Garrison craft, and log out, and then sit on the couch, watch anime, watch Doctor Who, which Doctor Who Christmas special. Certainly watched that live and did all that fun stuff. So, yeah, not much at all. There's like zero excuse for me not putting out overrateds and guides and all this other stuff. So, my apologies first to all of you who follow the channel, and I've actually had a couple people like, hey, where you been at? Want to see some more Pallie? Yeah, sorry. Not been the best of times. Anywho, so that brings me to my next topic, which is to discuss my raid guides, and the raid videos, and all that other kind of stuff. So, I've been putting a lot of pressure on myself, and you guys have heard it in earlier Overrated episodes about, oh yeah, I gotta get the Black Hand video, I gotta get these other Mythics videos, and like really pressuring myself to get the stuff out and get things to you guys, and like I have gotten zero of the live strategy guides. Like now that Highmall's been out for a month plus, certainly you should have been seeing some of those guides from me. And I guess the long story short is I'm going to take a step back from doing the raid guides at this point. One of those reasons is because of this pressure I'm putting on myself and other things I've got to do, which I'll get to in a second. But I'm going to take a step back from trying to produce those raid guides and get them out in a timely fashion. I know it's sort of a disappointment, probably to many, but it's a disappointment to me because I feel like I get lots of great comments from people saying they really like how I explain the fight and really like, no nonsense. Here's the fight, what you need to know, boom. And it's not like, an hour-long guide about every little single insignificant detail. So, I really feel like I have a niche of raid guide piece, some piece of the raid guide market, whatever that might be. So, it's kind of disappointing that I need to step back from that. Now, I will note really quickly, with the upcoming BlackRock Foundry, I still have all of those beta raid guides out there, so I have everything, just about everything covered in BlackRock Foundry for you. So still, if you're looking for BlackRock Foundry raid guides, check out those beta ones because those are still valid. There's still good stuff in all of those. So don't abandon me yet. Don't go away yet. But yeah, definitely I'm going to be stepping back, not really producing a guide per se. So what am I going to be producing? Well, I'm still going to be doing these overrateds, and part of the reason I wanted to go to a live broadcast was to make me do it at a specific time and come up with the same, approach and the fanciness and the whatever. So, overrated is here to stay, coming up on a more weekly schedule. Cool stuff, lots of things to talk about, lots of things to go over. So look for that every Saturday. I'll try to get them out to YouTube fairly quickly. It's pretty low effort for me to get these, out and such. So not a big deal. I will still be doing the podcast, The Edge, and if you haven't heard that yet, it's me and Matt Lowe and Sean and KT. We're all hanging out over at blizzpro.com, and you can look at the BlizzPro YouTube channel, check all that out. Cool stuff. You'll see lots of our banter and talking every week. And that is always done live on Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern, and again over at twitch.tv/BlizzPro. So, overrated, the Edge podcast still happening, and then at the very least, what I think I'm going to do in terms of raid content is at least put out the point of view videos for our kills things. So, like for right now, I've got the 7 out of 7 heroic bosses, sort of, here's the footage from our kills, and we'll slap an intro, slap music on that, put it out there, so at the very least, my guild has something to, show and say, here's our point of view videos, and, those can be linked in About Progress, and, people can see it. And I know it's somewhat helpful to have those when fights are new. Obviously, as they get older, everyone's got a point of view video out there, so I know I'm not like revolutionizing or capturing some big market or something, but I at least want to put that footage out there so people can see how we killed stuff, if not me like talking about it and saying it in a raid guide. So that's at least my promise in terms of what raid content I'm going to put out. And who knows, so that's what I'm doing. Why is, of course, a bit more personal and real and everything like that. And that's basically, I am going to be in the middle of a move coming up here move my family from one city to another, and it'll be like the first time we've moved as a family in 15 plus years. So it's a pretty big deal, pretty big thing that I need to get right and get a lot of time and effort into. And as much as I'd like to put time and effort into the fun stuff of, making new and better graphics for raid guides and better ways to express things and all that other kind of stuff, my time and effort should be put into getting my family to where it needs to go. So hopefully you understand that. Pretty sure everyone will. So yeah, that's the main reason why. There's other sort of little reasons of I want to focus on this and really like to, working on this live broadcast. The Edge podcast is working. Got some other, plans and everything WoW-wise. So, anywho, there's where I've been, what I'm going to be doing, and I really appreciate the support of people who have I've talked this through and gone, yeah, I need to take a break from them. Maybe I come back to them in the next PTR, the next tier, whatever. But I feel like I'm still, at the very least, going to be able to bring you guys, my fresh takes on content, my weird discussions and hand waving and, grabbing cats like this who are very cute and very awesome. And that's why you come and subscribe to my channels. So, I'll put you back up there. That is Callie, by the way, my calico. And she's very cheesed that I just did that. But that's cats for you. So, anywho, where I've been, raid guides, cool. So the actual, let's, putting all that, non-content stuff aside, what I really wanted to mainly talk today about was burnout. And, yes, it's my sort of burnout of raid guides. I'm not really burnt out, I just need to focus on other stuff. But anyway, burnout in WoW, in Warlords of Draenor. So, if you don't think this is a problem, probably not in a raiding guild. You probably don't have a lot of people that you're hanging out with in the game. So there have been some sort of more prominent people who have stepped back from raiding, stepped back from more serious raid content. This is somewhat old news in terms of that. There are some big shakeups at the top in terms of people stepping down, etc., burning out. And of course, it always happens. It always happens at any time. Everyone can burn out. That happens. But especially right around now, it's feeling like a bit weirder, a bit more burnout than what would have been expected. So, at the very least, let me bring my experiences to you to say that my GM has sort of stepped back from raiding. Yes. No, I am not the GM of the guild now. That could have been a possibility. And there's the cat jumping that way. That was her revenge to shake the camera. Way to go, Callie. So, but my guild master has stepped back. He's not in a raiding spot. We did replace him with Agathon, who you may know from Tank Spot, and he's stepped in the main tanking role, and we're deciding if we want a backup tank or others. There's other people who are going to sort of pitch in for tanking, but anywho, sort of filled that spot. Cool. But I've sort of been losing other officers along the way. So one of our main healers, who's also an officer, he's sort of like, work schedule, not feeling this, wanting more PvP. So he stepped back, and again we've replaced him with a Shadow Priest who really likes to heal, more so. So she's all happy that she's healing now. Cool. But now this 25, 30-man roster that we sort of had heading in is starting to get whittled down. It's like, we just barely had 22 people online last Thursday in order to go do Mythic Progression. And I was like, huh, what's going on here? So, you in the past, around the Christmas time, obviously the roster was weird. There was, even the GM was just sort of like taking a vacation, and many other people were taking vacations and whatnot. So, you could have been like, oh yeah, everyone's on vacation, we'll all come back, and beginning of January we'll hit it hard. But it's not really feeling like that right now. It's like, oh crap, we just snuck by. We just snuck by the holidays, and now we're just getting into Mythic, and we've got good people. I'm not saying our roster is, bad or anything, but it's like we're just barely are sneaking in now. And, from talking to other GMs, from even talking to Matt Lowe on the podcast, we actually did this topic in a little bit, touched on this topic in the podcast last week. He's like, yeah, seen it all over the place. He himself feels burned out. And Katie on that show was like, yeah, feeling a little burned out. So it's just sort of feeling of universal burnout and people stepping back and really not either feeling this expansion or what. So I really want to sort of dive into, why is this happening? What's the dealio? Why are people feeling burnt out? So the first thing that people, when I ask this question, people say is garrisons. That cool, big feature of Warlords of Draenor is driving people out? I don't know. It's a big thing where people they're feeling like they have to do it, of course, and people felt that same way about the Mists of Pandaria dailies and the farm in Mists of Pandaria. Same type of feel, but people are really feeling like, I've got to do the garrison. And especially if you have an alt, you feel like that alt, you're not even taking it seriously if you don't do the full garrison, if you don't do all your work orders, if you don't level the buildings, if you don't level all the followers. You feel like you are not taking that character seriously. And in many ways, you're right. If you don't do all of that, you're not getting the added benefits of, like, gear from high mall missions. You're not getting benefits of gold and resources and herbs and etc. Now the mine has been, I don't know, everyone's got a million ores, so don't do the mine. If you're feeling burnt out, just don't freaking do the mine. Don't worry about it. It's all good. It'll be fine. But, just the sheer amount of stuff that you have to do to keep a garrison going, or at least that you feel like you have to do, yeah, it's a lot. And Blizzard has even acknowledged this in a blue post to say, yeah, it's probably a little bit too much for all of you who love alts. Yeah, I've got 2 characters, and I really can't imagine leveling a 3rd and trying to make sure I keep up with all those garrisons. Matt on the podcast said he's got 4 characters that he cares about that are level 100, and to do them all, in terms of garrisons, it takes him like 90 minutes. An hour and a half. An hour and a half just spent in your garrison and just doing all this micromanagey stuff that you got to do. Yeah, that's quite a bit. Now, there are, of course, add-ons that help you out. There's ones like Master Plan that has just made missions ridiculously easy. It's just like, click, here's the mission, it's going to get me this much experience, this is 100%, okay, I'm done with my missions. It is that easy. If you haven't downloaded that one yet, take that out. That's Master Plan. Yes. There's another one that even lets you click once on work orders, and it just like keeps clicking until it can't place another one. I think it's called bulk order. Yeah. So there have been a lot of add-ons that sort of help you with it, but you still have to go building to building, and if you really are doing stuff right, you need to be doing, the garrison campaign missions and etc. So, and going to get followers and all of that. It's a lot. It is a heck of a lot. So I understand the burnout. My own advice to everyone, take my advice, your pal Pallie, take my advice, you don't have to do it every day. You don't. So let's go like sort of not building by building, but at least major building by building. So the mine. No. There's a million ore on the auction house. No. Forget the mine. Don't do it. The herb garden, I still do it on both, but the only reason is I'm trying to have a big stockpile of herbs for potions. That's all it is. If you're not like seriously doing potions or selling stuff, skip the herb garden. Skip it. Fishing shack, haven't done that daily since I hit level 700 on my hunter for fishing. No reason. No reason to do it. Don't worry about it. The pet menagerie I actually still haven't unlocked on any tune because I just haven't messed with it. So anyway, we'll skip that. So the missions for the followers, here is the only place where I can see a disadvantage of not doing things every day. Because if you don't do your follower missions, you aren't leveling them up, you aren't getting them prepared. But if you are to the point where you've got enough item level 645 level 100 followers that you can do most of the biggie missions, don't do it every day. If you must think about it, log in, look if there's any of those big missions, do that one, log off. Just do that. Just do that. Trying to save you. But I understand. I understand. I like the follower system. That's like my favorite part of the whole Garrison, so just chill. And by big missions, if you don't know what I mean by that, there's a few listed missions that are like every 2 weeks you should get a High Mall raid mission, which will eventually of course turn into a Blackrock Foundry mission, and that one gives you a good piece of loot if you can, for your spec and class and everything, if you can succeed at it. It's an every 2 week thing. There's like a Blingtron Secret Vault, I think, and that gives you like 500 gold. So yeah, you want to pick that one up. And then usually weekly you should get a mission for whichever part of the Legendary Ring quest you're on. So was the Abrogator Stone quest for me, but now that I'm on the next phase of that quest line, it's the Elemental Runes, Elemental Stones. Anyway, whatever it is, you'll get one of those per week. So again, those missions, those are the biggies. Log in, see if you got one. If you don't, forget it. Forget it. Move on. Move on. And again, something like Master Plan, and of course many websites like Wowhead and all that kind of fun stuff, they can give you a good sense of, here are the followers that you need to have, focus on these 10, 15 followers, get their item level up, and then you should be able to do just about any mission. And again, once you arrive at that point, don't worry about the followers and everything. But again, it's my favorite part, so I hate to tell people don't do that part, but you can get by with that. You can. It'll be okay. For reals. Yes. So, sorry, I had to clear that cold stuff. Anywho, so that's that buildings. Now, the rest of the buildings on your Garrison, and we're just talking about things that you can do every week or should do if you're feeling burnt out on Garrisons. You can set up buildings such that you can put enough work orders in and you can come back in 3.5 days. So that's by default. 21 orders is what the normal large building requirement or large building capacity is for work orders. So it's about 3.5 days. So yeah, log in on a Tuesday, do your world boss farming, do your normal stuff, farm all the stuff that you need to in order to fill your queue up, and then don't check it until Friday. It's possible. It's fine. And even more so, if that's not good enough for you, you can also put a storehouse as one of your small buildings. And once it's level 3, that's 36 work orders. That's like almost 6-7 days. So you can come in every Tuesday, reset your garrison, and off you go. You know, if you really want that. And if you do that, you're not going to be too disadvantaged when it comes to, you know, getting the most out of your garrison. I mean, yes, okay, absolutely, if you log in every day and you manage everything in your garrison, you know, like Matt does 90 minutes a day, you are definitely optimally using the garrison. But just taking a step back and logging in every 3 or 4 days, you are not really losing that much, other than the mine and the herb stuff. So it's okay. It's okay. You can do it. So those are just my tips for combating garrison burnout. Take them, do them, yes. Now, that's just garrisons, and certainly the game currently focuses a lot on garrisons. It's a whole lot on garrisons. But there's a lot of other things that people are doing, and a lot of other things that you can do in the game. You know, dungeons and challenge modes and rep grinds and achievements and raiding, of course. And if you're feeling burnt out on garrisons, I would suggest you go do some of that other stuff, because that's more of the game. That's getting you out in the world and exploring and doing stuff. So there's that. But then sort of the next piece is, how's the sort of major PvE content going? That would be the raiding, the challenge modes, the dungeons, etc. So for the most part, I felt like the dungeons themselves excuse me, I felt like those dungeons have been pretty good, pretty well received. The heroics were about where they said they were going to be, you know, not as easy as Mop, not as hard as Kata. You know, we got through heroics, now they're, you know, with raid gear, they're pretty, you know, LOL fest, but they were pretty good. The challenge modes are certainly more challenging than they have been. I'm trying to get a group, well, I'm not trying to get the group going, but someone's adding me to a group to do the challenge modes and try to get golds. I did the challenge modes when I really needed them for the raid gear, for the 640 gear, pre-raid, and got half silvers, the rest bronze. So now I'm getting with a group to sort of work up to getting gold and everything, and you know, that's always fun. And there's certainly, so far, they feel a bit more challenging than the Mists ones. So, you know, good stuff there. If you know, you can spend a hour or two cranking on those and have a good night, you know, with 5 people, if that's what you like to do. But let's go to the big topic, because I'm going to try to keep, you know, quick note here, I'm going to try to keep these episodes running about 40 minutes. I'm like sort of watching the clock more so than I have in the past. So let's get to sort of the main chunk of PvE content that everyone talks about, and that's the raiding. So Heimall is out. We have 7 bosses. They've all been killed on Mythic, but that's the 1%er. That's, you know, whatever. That's the less than 1%er. But how is the raiding going in Heimall? So pretty good. My only critique, or my biggest critique of Heimall, is that Imperador is probably a little hard in terms of an end boss for at least normal. Well, normal probably feels right. Heroic feels a little janky. Feels like unless you've got a lot of DPS, or sort of execute perfectly in the last 50% of the fight, or maybe the last 40-ish%, it feels like it's really bursty on damage and really hard to make sure that you get through it. and I've heard this from multiple groups and multiple guilds and such. Many people are sort of 6, 7 healing that fight. Our first kill on Heroic on Imperator was 7 healed, and it was pretty laughable when we did that. We were just like, huh, well, that really made it easy. And it was like 7 heals, like 13, 14 DPS, and 2 tanks. And I was like, wow. The healers had nothing to do up until this last 40, 50%. And then it was like, oh my god. But we got through it, and it was all down. So I feel like there's probably going to be some sort of targeted nerf on that fight. I'm not calling for one, but it feels like there's going to be one, because if we try to do that same fight with, around the same number of DPS and like 4 or 5 heals, it's really, really stressful and really, really tough to get through it. And I guess in a sense you could say, well, you guys should stop being bad and stop stepping in traps and stop, executing it right. You should choose a better strategy. But I feel like if the fight can be 7 healed but not 4 healed with similar skill, well, I don't know. I'm trying to make a fine point here probably, and it's probably not going to work out, but hey, whatever. This is overrated. I am overrated. I feel like if you can 7 heal it just fine and it makes it fairly trivial, there's probably something broken wrong about it. It's not scaling up right. Like you would figure, alright, you add 2 more people to the roster and the size expansion of Imperator and the ads and everything in the fight, the flexible scaling, should make the damage go a lot higher or something, so that 7 healing it is not an option because that adds too much to it. I don't know. It feels like the scaling of that doesn't work out. And I mean, I've heard of people like, sort of old 10-man guilds walking in there with 2 tanks, like 4 heals, and only like 6 DPS or something. And they get through it, and it's like, no problem. And I don't know. That just feels kind of broken to me. So, anywho. There is, of course, a lot of personal responsibility on that fight. Don't step in the traps, DPS the right ad, move away for fixates, etc., etc. There's a whole lot in that fight, but it feels like the pieces of the damage that come when they come in Phase 3, second transition, Phase 4, they don't feel right. So, anywho, my opinion so far, at least on that fight. But overall, my guild is has only killed Kargath on Mythic. We've worked on Twin Ogrins for a couple nights now. Really close there, had like a 20% wipe, and then spent the night eating charges and fire, which was kind of frustrating. But, getting close to a Twin Ogrin kill, and then we move on. So, and I sort of asked other guilds who have killed further fights and their impressions of fights, and I'm just trying to get a sense of how High Maul is progressing. It sounds like Brackenspore and Tectus certainly have their own complications, but they're, between 50 and 100 pulls type bosses. Korog is fairly difficult, but again, not a oh my god type fight. If you have a lot of DPS, if you have great heals, which can also happen with gear, that fight, gets a little easier. Likewise, the Butcher is certainly one that was during the actual race itself. That one was really interesting because it was being like saved for last kind of thing. And in fact, one guild did kill Imperator and then went back for Butcher. But Butcher is probably going to be one of those fights where everyone's like, oh my god, this was ridiculously hard when people were under-geared, but it's probably not going to be easy when you're over-gearing it, but it's going to be just fall into that 50-100 wipe type thing, because it really is a DPS tech, sure. Sort of the numbers that I've heard are, I think, 3 or 4 heal it, and average DPS needs to be 32k pretty good. I think I'm hitting like 28k in my current gear, so actually I'm going to switch specs coming up next reset and go from there. But anyway, beside the point. I feel like Butcher's going to end up being like, well, if you had the gear from Mythic, it's going to be easier, but there's not a lot of actual super complicated mechanics in Mythic. And then from what I know of Imperador, Imperador Mythic, it really is a very hard, very complicated, lots of moving parts fight on Mythic. Obviously it's been killed by quite a few guilds, but it's going to be really tough for people to get it down before Blackrock Foundry opens. Just like the sort of 5% guild type stuff that we saw on like Garrosh. Probably not going to happen before Blackrock Foundry. Maybe 1% of guilds will kill it. I don't know. We'll see. I probably should have checked the numbers, see where we're at this point. But we haven't. So overall, have people been feeling good with the raid content? I think people have their fights that they like, fights that they don't. A lot of people really hate Tectus. I recently got to do Tectus as a melee on normal mode, and I understand the hate. That fight is awful for melee. Oh my god. Really awful. Really awful. Range is just like, yeah, you gotta move a bunch, but whatevs. There's not spikes coming out of the ground every 5 seconds. Oh my god. Anyway. Ugh, that was a bad fight. But other fights, people have their favorites, people don't like some, etc., etc. But I feel like the content itself and the fights themselves have been very good. I've liked them. I have seen them grow from beta and gone, wow, yeah, that was neat how they did that. It's neat how they approach this and how they, etc., etc. So, yay. What I feel like, though, is that this is the first time at the beginning of an expansion that we've had 4 raid difficulties available. Now, certainly, at the beginning of Siege of Orgrimmar, we did have all of those raid difficulties available. So what am I talking about? I'm talking LFR, Flex, which is normal mode, Heroic, and Mythic. So in Siege of Orgrimmar, we had what was then called LFR, Flex mode, Normal, and Heroic. So 4 again. But, the difference I think now is that people feel like they've really got to go into multiple difficulties in order to progress through those difficulties. So at the very least, if you're a raider doing like normal mode or heroic mode at this point, you probably are going into LFR every week and killing the bosses. Yep. You're doing your normal mode farm. Yep. And you're probably at least doing Kargath on heroic, because he's sort of easier than all the other bosses. So you at least feel like you're seeing Kargath quite a bit. People will probably hate that fight very soon, if they haven't already. If you're a Mythic guild, early on, I know we just recently dropped normal mode, but for a while there, certainly during Christmas and certainly during the beginning, we were doing normal mode, we were doing heroic, and then, as we got into Mythic, we were still doing those 3 difficulties. And if people still had some dungeon gear, they were also running the LFRs as they came out. So that was like the 4 difficulties. So maybe it's back to that sort of everyone's having to run the same stuff over and over again, and they're already burnt out on it. I don't know. Certainly, from a perspective of my guild master, Sori, he said he just wasn't feeling the rating right now, feeling the rating tier, and he's got some other things going on that he's doing. But, I've heard that from multiple people, the whole not feeling it this tier. So, I don't know. Will, like, Blackrock Foundry sort of drop in, everyone's all happy again, 10 bosses, lots to do? Maybe. It certainly will be better than the introduction of High Mall. You won't feel like, oh, I've got to run LFR, I've got to run normal, blah, blah, blah. No, you probably won't. Usually on opening tiers, tier set bonuses are not like really OP. So if you're sort of a Mythic, Heroic raiding guild, If you're like I'm level 670 or so, you should be able to step right into Heroic Blackrock Foundry and sort of, pick up where you left off in terms of fights and progression and whatnot. If you're sort of like 660, 650, yeah, you're going to want to run normal mode, get as much tier, as much, stuff that you can so that you can step into the bigger heroic fights and whatnot. So I don't think Blackrock Foundry will exacerbate this problem, and maybe people will like Blackrock Foundry better than High Mall, but you have to think back to Firelands, and we had 7 bosses in that whole tier, and High Mall is 7 bosses, so I don't know. I'm not convinced either way of people's reasons. Now, one thing that was pointed out on the podcast, this is a very good point, I think Katie made this point, was people were, we had this big, or maybe it was Matt, I don't know, we had a big, huge influx of people, like 2-3 million more people logged into Warlords than Blizzard expected, which caused some of the server issues. They denied to service their own servers. But then maybe those 2 million people got their fill of things, and now they're, off and going on and saying, yeah, that was good, leveling, did some dungeons, I'm good now, I'm out the door. So that's a possibility. That's a slight possibility. Certainly we'll be interested to see what the subscriber numbers are for Q4 and then into Q1, but we won't get those till, April, May time frame and whatnot. So, in which case we're probably going to be talking about what the next tier is at that point. So, anywho, what do you all think? What are you seeing the burnout from people? Are you seeing a lot of people going, I cannot stand this Garrison thing anymore. I can't stand this High Mall. Who are these ogres? Who cares? Give me Blackrock Foundry. I don't know. We'll see. Let me know. Post some comments. Tell me if you see some things other reasons that people are burning out. Someone suggested like lores. So people aren't as connected to the lore or the story. Just like, why are we killing these ogres? I don't know. Why were we killing the Mogashan Vault peoples at the beginning of Mists? Same kind of dealio. Maybe there's too much of a gap between High Mall and Blackrock. It was too long. Whereas in Mists, it was like 4 weeks. I don't know. Post some comments. Let me know what you think. And let me know what you think of this live broadcast. Didn't really get people from the chat, or else my browser's kind of screwed up, which is a very big possibility. Didn't get any comments, but hey, log into twitch.tv/getterraid at 11 p.m. Central. I'll put out a Twitter out there at getterraid. Let people know the show's upcoming, all that kind of jazz. And yeah, let me know. I'm back producing some content. I'm going to give you some point of view videos at least. Overrated's continuing on, and the podcast over at Blizz Pro is there. Yeah, and there'll be some apparently exciting stuff coming out from Catalyst Gaming Media. I can't talk too much about that yet, but lots of fun stuff happening over there. So, thanks all for watching. Appreciate it. This is your pal Pallie, episode number 43 of Overrated. Have a good one.